Hello everyone, how are we going? Can people hear me alright? Anyway, my name's Max and I'm here on top of a crane in Port Botany. It's one of the largest shipping container ports on this continent that Australia is running and has been running since it first started here. I'd like to start by acknowledging that I'm taking action here on Bidjigal country. This particular bit of land used to be the bay that they have dug up and turned into a port. Which has ultimately destroyed a really large amount of the environment here. I guess I'm here. I've climbed up this crane and have stopped all the unloading of ships, as you can see over there. I intend to be here for as long as I can. This is part of Blockade Australia's mobilisation here at Port Botany. Where myself and others have I guess come to terms with the reality that the climate crisis is not only being ignored but being blocked by the system we know as Australia, and that there isn't any really any other way for meaningful political action in a society that is and has always been geared around maximising the exploitation of this continent. I think that was probably pretty clear to the Bidjigal people when the English came here and started waging their war on this continent and on its peoples. I guess that war has now been extended to most people living on this continent that are kind of forced to eke out an existence by exploiting the land, and who are punished when they refuse to participate in this exploitation system. I guess what I'm doing here is can people hear me all right? Sorry. Is it very windy? Can people hear me? Ah. One sec. Let's try it. Yes, again, my name's Max. This is the third action of the day, as that is part of Blockade Australia's mobilisation here at Port Botany. We are taking action with the acknowledgement that the climate crisis is being fueled and driven by the system we know as Australia, and that this system will not stop its exploitation of the planet until we the people who are living on this continent are able to stand up and get in the way of what it's doing. I'll just give people a little view around. I'm just a bit tired after my run. So yeah, this is the Botany Bay container port. It's got the largest fuel refinery on the continent over there, and then there's these three huge shipping container ports here, which yeah, I guess form part of this kind of mad globalized system that we live in, where we get to eat avocados that have been grown in Mexico, polished in Thailand, and then sent over here to be eaten by people who yeah, are also forced to work to survive. I'm just getting hit by a bit of rain here, potentially a storm coming in, so I'm just going to put my jacket on, put the phone back in this thing for a little bit. I'll be back in a second. So everyone, you have to excuse the weather. It's getting pretty blowy and pretty windy up here. Yeah. My name's Max, and I have climbed up a shipping crane inside of Port Botany, and I'm using my capacity to take direct action to get in the way of Australia's operation, because that is what is required in the face of catastrophic climate collapse and a society that is refusing to take that seriously, that is blocking action on the crisis on this continent and all over the world. We have governments for the last 4 decades have known about the seriousness of this crisis. They have been warned time and time again, yet not only has no change been made, but steps that have been taken have been deliberately blocked by the parliaments. And yeah, likewise the legal system here in Australia, which was built around the prioritising the private right to exploit above all else, has ultimately led to a situation where people who are trying to protect the planet are punished, and the corporations and the people in power who have made their wealth by exploiting the land and the people are in control, and there is no real meaningful way for little people to participate in Australia's so-called democracy. You might get to vote, but you don't get to choose the candidates. You don't get to choose the electoral system. That was predetermined and was set up to ensure that the people who were in power stayed in power. You know, it is no surprise that that since World War II we have had a Conservative government for more than 2/3 of the time. The electoral system is set up to benefit people who are happy to sell out and use their voices to and their power to protect their mates in big business. Yeah, we see the Labor Party trying to get on board that train, and I guess it has been trying to do that since the 80s. Yeah, where it too has bought into this idea that to have a prosperous world, we need to have a society that grows by 3% per year, and that's just that is unsustainable. It's ultimately not going to work in the long run, and we are going to damage this single planet that we call home to a point where it no longer can support most life on Earth. Yeah, you look at I mean, you know, just standing up, you know, I'm obviously very high off the ground here, you know, looking around at this bay and at the broader at the broader area, and look at the damage that the Empire has done here. Look at the smoke spilling out of that factory over there. You know, there is no thinking about the fact that resources may be running out, or that continually pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere might actually end up wiping us out. They have no interest in future generations. They only have interest in the expected future profits of the corporations that back their political campaigns, and that make sure that the laws that benefit them get enacted, so that this society can continue to do what it is doing, and you know, rip their guts out of this land. So you can see I got a bit of company down here on the ground. Was a little bit hairy on the way up, got to say, and yeah, I guess now I guess potentially riding out the storm coming, and yeah, I guess waiting to see what happens with the people that Australia pays to protect its business interests and to protect its climate destroying machine. You know, this, you know, I guess I'm participating in this mobilisation with Blockade Australia because for the first time we have a climate movement that is actually acknowledging that this crisis is bigger than just a few bad industries or a few bad politicians. It is rotten to the core. This system was set up by the largest empire in the world to efficiently exploit this continent without care for the people who live or lived here, and for the ecosystem that sustain all life. It cannot simply change its priorities but overnight. There is over 200 years of laws and regulations that are set up to protect the sort of behaviour that is destroying the planet. And yeah, I guess when looking at that system and its use of force and violence to protect what it deems to be their legitimate exploitation of the land and the water and the air, we need to start taking direct action like this, using our bodies. You know, yeah, there really, yeah, I guess there's, you know, working people and people who are not part of the ruling class have really only a few tools in their belt to be able to deal with this system, and organised direct action has and is are the most powerful tool we have, and I guess the bare minimum for political engagement that will actually be paid attention to. You know, we have seen hundreds of thousands of people marching on the streets. We've seen people begging politicians for change. Yeah, I guess this is a bit of a, yeah, I guess it's time for people who are concerned about the climate crisis, who can see that we are reaching tipping points, that once we cross them we cannot go back, that this is the highest priority, that dealing with the climate crisis and dealing with the cause of the climate crisis, which is societies like Australia that are hell-bent on exploiting this continent, that needs to be our highest priority, and it is a matter of life and death. And yeah, I guess, you know, the climate movement here, or, you know, people concerned about climate change have for far too long thought that we can achieve very radical change in society without taking any risks, and that just isn't proven when looking through history. Like, unions didn't get better wages and conditions by holding placards. They got it through strike and through organised resistance. You know, the forces of the empires were only pushed out of the colonised world through force, through organised resistance. And yeah, I guess, you know, I'm taking part in some blockading today. You know, I'm not using, yeah, I guess, you know, in this circumstance, at this time, this is an appropriate use of my body and of my time, and is something that people who are concerned about this issue need to start considering taking on much more as part of their lives. You know, things are not going to change. We can't just sit back and hope that politicians or that the legal system or that law enforcement will suddenly come to its senses and realise that, oh, actually we are killing the planet. Maybe that's a really dumb idea. You know, this is not, there's been plenty of time for that to happen, and if it was going to happen, it would have happened already. These people do not serve us. They serve the ruling class, and they have been selected by those political parties to serve that function. Can people hear me at all? Sorry, I'm just very... Where's the comments? Awesome. Thanks guys. Yeah, sorry, just getting my stuff together. Yeah, so I guess like I've climbed up this crane today because yeah, I guess what we need in the face of catastrophic climate claims is for people to start to prioritise resistance to Australia's program, and that you know that can't just be a weekend. That can't just be a weekend activity, or it can't just be something that we do here and there and then go back to our lives pretending like it's not happening. You know, as my friend Emma said this morning, you know, the Arctic is going to be free of ice, free of permanent ice this summer. We are already at a time in history where we are seeing overlapping crises. We see bushfires, then we see COVID, then we see floods. You know, this is what is going to continue to happen and continue to get worse. And this society that is built on global supply chains, that has been, you know, set up so that mega corporations can make as much money as they possibly can, and so that workers and everyday people are as disempowered as possible. This system will crash and burn because it is so resource intensive that it is eating up this planet. Yeah, like, you know, we can't just take this Australian society and suddenly get it to totally do a 180-degree turn and start going, oh yeah, oh maybe we do need to start prioritising the environment. Yeah, it can't do that because it's got fundamental principles like the protection of the private right to exploit, the protection of stolen land, you know, that where kind of people are allowed to do what they want with this little section of the Earth's crust that they somehow believe is theirs, and that they can like pollute and destroy as much as they like, you know, despite the fact that, you know, future generations are going to be left with a pile of rubbish. Yeah, like, this is not a game. You know, I have, you know, taken significant risks to get up here. People involved in Blockade Australia, people involved in direct action here historically have, you know, like, it is a risky thing to do, but not acting is more risky. Not acting means locking in crisis after crisis after crisis, and it is going to mean that, you know, at some point we reach a stage in history where there is just no, you know, there is just not enough resources, and the weather has become so crazy that you know, things will start to self-destruct. And yeah, use a bit of that. Lost my hat, look at that, oh good. Like I say, it's a bit of a mission getting in here, but yeah, you know, in June this year, Blockade Australia is going to be hosting a mobilisation in Sydney, where there's, you know, probably going to be some less risky action for people to take part in. But yeah, I guess, you know, that mobilisation is again going to be geared around maximising the level of disruption to this system, because this system is refusing to act on the climate crisis. We are blocking Australia because Australia is blocking action on the climate crisis. If, you know, and you know, the more people that start to recognise the truth about this, that, you know, that Australia is just, is not just a little bit off track, it is driving us completely in the wrong direction. And it is doing everything in its power to make sure that you know, the mega corporations and the filthy rich can keep going on with their exploitation operation, with their ever expanding mines, their ever more efficient forest killing machines. You know, yeah, and that's not to say that there isn't a positive future out there for us, but we have to have a society that prioritises building that positive future, not prioritises maximising the exploitation of the land. You know, that's the sort of shift that we need to see if we're going to survive, and that is not going to come through asking politicians nicely or through you know, just doing your job and all these sorts of other things that they continue to tell us to do. You know, these are the sorts of things that have, and the sorts of like political confusion that have led us into this mess. You know, people who, like, we have been fed lies by this society that, you know, politics happens once every 3.5 years, and that you know, for the rest of the time, just go, you know, shut up and go back to your life. But that's not what the people in power do. They are doing politics every single day. They are making sure that everyday people are as confused and disenfranchised and disconnected from their own power as possible, because then they are as easy to exploit as possible. You know, this is a pretty extreme place to be. I probably haven't ever been anywhere like this before. But yeah, I would encourage people to confront their fear of challenging authority and to push through the limits that were pushed onto us as children. You know, that we are powerless to make change. You know, a small number of people can shut down some of the most important infrastructure to this exploitation system. It does not take that much organising and that much people power. But if we had tens of thousands of people, which there are definitely tens of thousands of people who are incredibly concerned about the climate crisis, if those people started to make this their priority, started to make sure that, yes, you know, in the next 5 years we need to radically change the way we organise our societies, you know, to heed the warnings that there is a massive storm coming, and that if we don't get into the storm shelter, it is going to blow us all away. You know, we have leaders in the parliaments, in the media, in the courts who keep telling us, oh no, just go back and, you know, do your life and just you know, just go back and be a good little person again. But that's, you know, that's exactly what they want, and that's what they've been, you know, that's what they've been conditioning us to do for a very long time, because it serves their interests and doesn't serve our interests. Yeah, like, sorry if it's a little bit of a, sorry if what I'm saying is a little bit unclear. I might just get my rope a bit. Yeah, it's unfortunately on my